Hi, I'm Lonnie Bird. Welcome to my shop and welcome to making panel doors with Amana tool. Amana tool produces several different router bits for making cabinet doors, including the reversible style and rail bits, two-piece style and rail bits, and several different profile bits for shaping raised panels. In this DVD, I'll demonstrate the steps to making beautiful cabinet doors with your Amana router bits. All doors consist of a framework surrounding a panel. The vertical members of the framework are called stiles. The horizontal members, called rails, are fit in between the stiles. The inside edges of the frame members are typically shaped with a simple decorative profile, often referred to as sticking. Where the sticking intersects in the corner, it's coped. The frame and panel design has been around for centuries, and it's still popular today because it's both beautiful and practical. As the seasonal humidity changes, the panel expands and contracts within the groove in the frame. As a result, the outside dimensions of the door remain constant regardless of the time of the year. Traditionally, the stiles and rails are joined with mortise and tenon construction. Today, a faster method, referred to as cope and stick, is often used. The decorative sticking profile, along with the panel groove, is routed along the inside edges of the frame members. The ends of the rails are routed to create a short tenon and the cope, which is a reverse profile of the sticking. When using power tools, it's important to always follow a few safety precautions. Use safety glasses to protect your vision, and use foam plugs or earmuffs to protect your hearing. Large diameter bits, such as those being used in this DVD, should only be used in a table-mounted router, and never exceed the manufacturer's recommended RPM for any router bit. Distance your hands from the spinning bits by using push sticks and push blocks. And always use the fence. Besides providing a barrier around the bit, the fence provides a place for attaching the dust collection and also for attachment of a guard. This large guard is ideal when shaping raised panels because it completely covers the spinning bit. Finally, remember that the stock should always be fed from right to left against the rotation of the spinning bit. When constructing doors, it's important to begin with stock that's free of warp or twist. Twisted stock can kick back as it's run through the router. Also, a door that's made from twisted stock will often be twisted, and it's difficult to hang a twisted door in the cabinet. Rather than using S2S lumber, which is often warped, I begin with rough lumber. I cut it to a rough length, which is approximately 1 inch over the finished length, and I rip it to a rough width, and then I flatten one face and plane it to thickness. This method results in lumber that's flat, free of warp, the edges are parallel, and the ends are square. In order to ensure that the completed door fits the cabinet opening, it's important that the stiles and rails are cut to the correct length. As a rule of thumb, I cut the stiles oversize, and then after assembly, I trim off the excess so that it's flush with the rail. To determine the length of the rails, I subtract the width of the two stiles from the overall size of the door, and then I add back the length of the tenon, which is the depth of the groove in the stile. In this chapter, I'll go through the steps to making a raised panel door with the Amana two-piece stile and rail bit set. I begin by making a sample of the door stile for use when setting up the coping bit. I insert the bit into the collet fully, and then I back it out a 1/16 to ensure that the collet grips the shank securely. Now tighten the collet nut. For safety and the best support of the stock, reduce the table opening as much as possible. Adjust the height of the bit to create a 1/16 of an inch fillet above the profile. Now slide the fence into position around the router bit. For the final pass, we'll want the fence tangent to the guide bearing. However, for the first pass, let's lighten the cut for a smoother surface. Now lock the fence in place and slide a guard in position in front of the router bit. Next, mount the coping bit and adjust the height to correspond with the sample style. Position the fence tangent to the guide bearing and lock it in place. Also, make sure that the fence is parallel to the miter gauge slot. Now mount the profile bit. Adjust the height of the bit to match the sample that you made previously. Once you've shaped all the frame members, you're ready to shape the panel. The first step is to lay out the overall height of the door on the stiles. To determine the panel size, measure to the bottom of the grooves and then subtract 1/8 of an inch for seasonal expansion. Door panels are typically made of solid wood, and the edges of the panel are beveled to create a raised field. The panel can be 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick, and the edges of the panel are 1/4 inch to fit within the frame groove. Begin by locking the panel bit securely within the router. Now adjust the height of the bit to create a 1/16 fillet along the edge of the field. For the greatest stock support, create a zero clearance fence opening. Remember to position a guard over the bit to protect your hands. For the final pass, position the fence tangent to the guide bearing. Once the panel is shaped, you're ready to assemble the door. Begin by positioning the panel into one of the stiles and then put the rails in place. As you position the rails, line them up with the layout marks that you made earlier on the stiles. To complete the door, trim the stiles flush with the edges of the rails. For this DVD, we're using the Amana tool 2-piece stile and rail set number 55420, as well as the OG raised panel with the back cutter, Amana tool number 54221.